Hello, good afternoon. My name is Ranjan Shah and I am from iQuanta-Patna. So today in this video we are going to talk about CAT 23 VA portion, and we will be discussing all the 8 questions from the VA section. So let's go ahead. And this year in CAT, if we talk about VA, then there were 8 questions and 2 questions each from 4 topics. 2 questions were from Para-General, 2 questions were from Para-Summary, 2 questions were from Sentence Placement, and 2 questions were from Odd One Out. So let's have a look. This first question is from Sentence Placement. So here we have this sentence: this philosophical cut at one's core beliefs, values and way of life is difficult enough. So this is the given sentence to us, and let's read the paragraph. The experience of reading philosophy is often disquieting. Now, what's the meaning of disquieting? Disquieting is disturbing. When reading philosophy, the values around which one has heretofore organized one's life may come to look provincial, flatly wrong, or even evil. So this paragraph talks about how one feels after reading philosophical texts. When beliefs previously held as truths are left implausible, not true, new beliefs, values and ways of living may be required. What's worse? Now all of a sudden, what's worse? So prior to this, the author must have talked about something that is not good, right? Anyways, so what's worse? Philosophers admonish means rebuke, dantna, admonish each other to remain unsutured until such time as a defensible new answer is revealed or constructed. Sometimes philosophical writing is even strictly critical in that it doesn't even attempt to provide an alternative after tearing down a cultural or conceptual citadel. Citadel means a kind of fort or an ideology that is very, very strong, right? The reader of philosophy must be prepared for the possibility of this experience. While reading philosophy can help one clarify one's values and even make one self-conscious for the first time, or the fact that there are good reasons for believing what one believes, it can also generate unremediated doubt that is difficult to live with. So, after 2, blank number 2, we do not really find any flaw in the passage. The passage is going in a rhythmic manner, right? And when beliefs previously held as truths are rendered implausible, new beliefs, new values and new ways of living may be required. What's worse? So what's worse here refers to something, right? And it actually accentuates something that has already been said. This philosophical cut at one's core beliefs, the one that you had thought about or you had believed in so far, one's core beliefs, values and way of life is difficult enough. And what's worse, philosophers admonish each other to remain unsutured until such time. So, a comprehensive reading of the paragraph tells us that it is 2 that should be our answer. And the clue, what's worse? So this refers to something. It actually works as a connector. It connects us to something. It is working as a cross reference. So the answer is 2. Let's move to the next question. The discovery helps to explain archaeological similarities between the Paleolithic people, Stone Age, Paleolithic people. So people from Paleolithic era, Stone Age. The researchers also uncovered an unexpected genetic link between Native Americans and Japanese people, right? During the deglaciation period, another group branched out from northern coastal China and traveled to Japan. We were surprised to find that this ancestral source also contributed to the Japanese gene pool, especially the indigenous anus, says Lee. It's a statement by Lee. Lee is the name of a lady or maybe a gentleman, right? So we don't know about the sex of the person. Anyways, so here again, the passage doesn't seem to break. There is no break in the flow of the passage. It's going in a very smooth manner. They shared similarities in how they crafted stemmed projectile points for arrowheads and spears. Now they is a cross reference. So they is definitely pointing to a group of people. And who are those people? Because before that, there is a statement by Lee. We were surprised to find that this ancestral source also contributed to the Japanese gene pool, especially the indigenous anus. So straightway after this statement, you cannot bring this sentence. They shared similarities. Let's put this sentence here. The discovery helps to explain archaeological similarities between the Paleolithic people, and now they here refers to Paleolithic people. Rest of the paragraph, if you read, you will find it again goes in a very rhythmic manner. So the answer to this question is option 3. Let's come to the next question, that is odd one out. While solving odd one out, it is not necessary that rest of the 4 sentences you have to first solve parajumble, you have to make a coherent paragraph, and then you have to go for the odd one out. Odd one out, if you read the sentences very carefully, so on the surface of it, ostensibly, the odd one out sentence, the 5th sentence, will appear very similar to the remaining 4, but a very careful examination, if you read the sentence diligently, you will realize that broadly it is on the same topic, but no, rest of the 4 sentences are actually talking in a different manner, and this one is different. This odd one out is different. So a careful reading is very, very important, and keep aside, let's keep aside our own interpretation, emotion, everything. In English, there is no systematic rule for the naming of numbers. After 10, we have 11 and 12, and then the teens, 13, 14. So here we are basically talking about how numbers are named in English, and there is no logic, there is no particular logic to name numbers. This is as far as sentence 1 explains. Let's come to sentence number 2. Even more confusingly, some English words invert the numbers they refer to. So again, sentence number 2 also talks about how numbers are named. It can take children a while to learn all these words and understand that 14 is different from 40. Now 14 and 40, towards the later part of this sentence, talk about numbers, but read the initial part of this sentence very carefully. It can take children a while to learn all these words. Now these words, the meaning here is completely different. It's talking about the words. It is not talking about specifically about the numbers. Let's read sentence number 4 and 5. For multiples of 10, English speakers switch to a different pattern, 20, 30, 40 and so on. So again, sentence number 4 talks about numbers. 5, if you didn't know the word for 11, you would be unable to just guess it. You might come up with something like 1 team. Now, summarizing all the 5 sentences, we come to the conclusion that sentence number 3 doesn't talk specifically about the numbers, whereas rest of the 4 sentences are talking about numbers. Therefore, our answer is sentence number 3. And the second question from odd one out. Let's read the sentences. Having an appreciation for the workings of another person's mind is considered a prerequisite for natural language acquisition, strategic social interaction, reflexive thought, and moral judgment. So this sentence basically talks about an appreciation for the workings of another person's mind, how another people's mind work. We should have an empathy to understand that, and we should be appreciative of that, right? It's a very subjective thing. Second, it is a theory of mind, though some scholars prefer to call it mentalizing or mind reading. Now sentence number 2 is talking about something at a micro level and at a very specialized level, which is important for the development of one's cognitive abilities, important for developing one's cognitive abilities. So look at the tone of this sentence and the topic that it is talking about. It is talking about something very, very technical. Though we must speculate about its evolutionary origin, we do have indications that the capacity involved sometime in the last few million years. Capacity evolved sometime in the last few million years. This capacity develops from an early beginnings in the first year of life to the adult's fast and often effortless understanding of others' thoughts, feelings, and intentions. So, what capacity? Capacity to appreciate someone else's mind. One of the most fascinating human capacities is the ability to perceive and interpret other people's behavior in terms of their mental states. So these 3 sentences, sentence number 5 could be the opening sentences, could be the opening sentence of your paragraph. One of the most fascinating human capacities is the ability to perceive and interpret other people's behavior in terms of their mental states. This sentence, then the next one, this capacity develops, though we must speculate about its evolutionary origin, when did it actually origin, we can safely, assume that these 3 sentences are related to each other and they are going in a very rhythmic manner. Likewise, sentence number 1, having an appreciation for the workings of another person's mind, this again relates to these 3 sentences. Sentence number 3, sentence number 4, and sentence number 5. Whereas sentence number 2 that talks about a very technical thing, very specialized thing, doesn't really gel with the rest of the 4 sentences. Therefore, our answer is option number 2. Let's come to parajumble. So here, as is our task, we have to arrange these 4 sentences in a coherent manner so as to form a meaningful paragraph. Let's read the sentences. The first is, algorithms hosted on the internet are accessed by many. So biases in artificial intelligence AI models have resulted in much larger impact, adversely affecting far larger groups of people. Now, here there is a word called biases. Now, all of a sudden, why there is a mention of biases, right? That somehow tells us that this may not be the opening statement. However, we are not ruling it out because it doesn't have too many cross references. Our opening sentence is normally the one that doesn't have cross references and the one that sets the tone for rest of the sentences to follow. Something that is introductory in nature, that introduces something, and that introduction could be in the form of a question also. Now, though algorithmic bias is the popular term, the foundation of such bias is not in algorithms but in the data. Algorithms are not biased, data is, as algorithms merely reflect persistent patterns that are present in the training data. So again, this particular sentence seems to be related to sentence number 1. And it again, after reading it appears to us that it is from the middle of a discussion. It cannot be the opening sentence. Sentence number 3. Despite their widespread impact, it is relatively easier to fix AI biases than human-generated biases, as now it talks about human-generated biases, as it is simpler to identify the former than to try to make people unlearn behaviors learned over generation. Sentence number 3. When we read it, we feel that it is kind of giving us a conclusion. It is summarizing the discussion. Let's read the sentence number 4. The impact of biased decisions made by humans is localized and geographically confined, but with the advent of AI, the impact of such decisions is spread over a much wider scale. This seems to be a perfect opening statement. Why? Because it doesn't talk about any cross-reference and it is of introductory in nature. It is introducing something to us. It is introducing us the impact of biased decisions made by humans, right? And how the biasness is there in artificial intelligence. Let's read the sentence once again. The impact of biased decisions made by humans is localized and geographically confined, but with the advent of AI, the horizon of such biased decisions is now limitless because of the technology. The impact of such decisions is spread over a much wider scale. So definitely, after reading 1, 2, 3 and 4, all the 4 sentences, we somehow feel that 4 is the opening sentence. And let's go ahead with finding its immediate pair. So, algorithms hosted on the internet are accessed by many. This particular portion, algorithms hosted on the internet are accessed by many, is accentuating the point introduced here, that the impact of such decisions is spread over a much wider scale. How? Because algorithms hosted on the internet are accessed by many. So biases in artificial intelligence models have resulted in much larger impact, adversely affecting far larger groups of people. So AI is affecting far larger group of people than the human decisions. 4, 1. Definitely, because 1 is immediately following 4. Though algorithmic bias, we have a mention of algorithms in sentence number 1, and then we talk about algorithmic bias is the popular term. The foundation of such bias is not in algorithms alone, but in the data. Algorithms are not biased, data is, as algorithms merely reflect persistent patterns that are present in the training data. So again, sentence number 2 explains, elucidates the things mentioned in sentence number 1. And as we had discussed at the outset, that sentence number 3 in a way presents us the conclusion, the summary of the discussion. So, despite their widespread impact, it is relatively easier to fix AI biases than human-generated biases. As it is drawing a conclusion, as it is simpler to identify the former than to try to make people unlearn behaviors learned over generation. 4, 1, 2, 3 is our answer. The second question of paradigm, CAT 23, morning slot 1. So, sentence number 1. What precisely are the unusual elements that make a particular case so attractive to a certain kind of audience? It is asking us a question. It may be our opening sentence because it is kind of introducing something. Let's keep it on hold. It might be a particularly savage or unfathomable, understand, unfathomable level of depravity. What is depravity? Corruption. Depravity, very often it has something to do with the precise amount of mystery involved. So, in a way, sentence number 2 is giving us the explanation to what has been said or what has been asked in sentence number 1. Unsolved and perhaps unsolvable cases offer something that ordinary murder doesn't. Again, it is kind of giving an answer, giving an explanation to what has been asked in sentence number 2. I'm sorry, I stand corrected. Sentence number 1. Sentence number 4. Why are some crimes destined for perpetual re-examination and others locked into permanent obscurity? Now, between sentence number 1 and 4, we have to decide that which should be our opening sentence, because sentence number 2 and 3 will definitely come after these two sentences. They are giving an explanation to these two questions between 1 and 4. So 4 is, why are some crimes destined for perpetual re-examination and others locked into permanent obscurity? What precisely are the unusual elements that make a particular case so attractive to a certain kind of audience? So, after reading these two sentences, we come to the conclusion that 4 is more general in nature and 1 narrows it down. Sentence number 1 narrows it down. So, let's go ahead with sentence number 4. Why are some crimes destined for perpetual re-examination and others locked into permanent obscurity? What is it that makes some cases very attractive and very, enticing to follow? What precisely are the unusual? Now, what exactly are the unusual elements that make a particular case so attractive to a certain kind of audience? Sentence number 1 is kind of taking it from sentence number 4. And then between 2 and 3, let's read sentence number 2 again. It might be a particularly savage or unfathomable level of depravity. It is kind of answering what has been asked in the previous sentence, that is sentence number 1. Very often it has something to do with the precise amount of mystery involved. Unsolved, again drawing a conclusion, unsolved and perhaps unsolvable cases offer something that ordinary murder doesn't. 4, 1, 2, 3 is the answer to this question. Para summary. So final 2 questions from para summary. Let's read this paragraph, what it is talking about. Manipulating information was a feature of history long before modern journalism established rules of integrity. So manipulating information was there in, ancient times also. Before modern era, it was there. A record dates back to ancient Rome when Antony met Cleopatra and his political enemy Octavian launched a smear campaign. So it talks about ancient Rome when manipulation was used. A smear campaign with an intention to malign someone's reputation against him with sharp slogans written upon coins. The perpetrator became the first Roman emperor, Octavian. So he is referred here as perpetrator. And fake news had allowed Octavian to hack the republican system once and for all, right? But the 21st century has seen the weaponization of information on an unprecedented scale. It was there in ancient time also, but 21st century has seen it at an unprecedented level, enormous level. And why it is so? Powerful new technology makes the fabrication of content simple, and social networks, the bane of social media. Social networks amplify, accentuates falsehoods. Peddle means to go and sell something. It is mostly used in negative sense. Peddled by states, populist politicians, and dishonest corporate entities. The platforms have become fertile ground for computational propaganda, trolling, and troll army. So, taking on from ancient era, how it has, expanded beyond fathomable limits is because of technology and because of social media. Now, let's read the 4 suggested summaries. First, disinformation, which is mediated by technology today, it is really not mediated, right? It is fueled by technology. It is not new and has existed since ancient times. So we are ruling it out, which is mediated by technology today. Not really. This is not what the passage implies. People need to become critical of what they read, since historically weaponization of information has led to corruption. Author nowhere is suggesting what people need to do and what people need to become. That is not even the slightest of intention here. So on that basis, we are ruling 2 out. Number 3, use of misinformation for attaining power, a practice that is as old as the Octavian era, perfect, is currently fueled by technology. So it is talking about misinformation from Octavian era and how it is fueled by technology today. So let's keep it on hold. And we have already ruled out 1 and 2. 4, Octavian used fake news to manipulate people and attain power and influence just as people do today. Not really, because this entire passage is not just about Octavian. Octavian's example is just to accentuate the point that it was there in ancient era also. That is not the summary of the passage. Therefore, between 3 and 4, we will definitely go in favor of 3, because in VARC, it's all about the most appropriate answer. It is not about right or wrong answer. It is about the best choice among the 4 given choices. So number 3 is the answer. Yes. The last one, the 8th question from VA section. Colonialism is not a modern phenomenon. World history is full of examples of one society gradually expanding by incorporating adjacent territory and settling its people on newly conquered territory. So this passage talks about colonialism and it tells us that it is not a new phenomenon. In the 16th century, colonialism changed decisively because of technological development. So it just says that colonialism went for a paradigm shift in the 16th century and why. So we will come to know about that a little later. And once again, it is not saying that it evolved in 16th century. It says that it was there, but in 16th century, it went for a huge change. Technological developments in navigation, and that was the reason for that huge change that began to connect more remote parts of the world because of developments or technological advancements in navigation. The modern European colonial project emerged when it became possible to move large numbers of people across the ocean and to maintain political control in spite of geographical dispersion. So when it became possible to travel to the distant parts of the world, European countries, because it talks about a modern European colonial project. So European countries, they started, traveling to other countries and colonializing them. The term colonialism is used to describe the process of European settlement, violent dispossession and political domination over the rest of the world, including the Americas, distant places, Australia, distant places, and parts of Africa and Asia, again distant places. So this is what this passage says. Let's come to the answers, the possible answers. First, colonialism surged in the 16th century due to advancements in navigation, enabling British settlements? No, factually incorrect. Why? It is talking about Europe as a whole, not just the Britishers. British settlements abroad and global dominance. So we will rule it out. As a result of developments in navigation technology, European colonialism led to the displacement of indigenous populations and global political changes in the 16th century. So it somehow makes sense because as a result of developments in navigation technology, European colonialism led to the displacement of indigenous populations. Displacement of indigenous populations? Probably it has not been talked about in the passage. Okay, and global political changes in the 16th century. That is too extreme. 3. Colonialism conceptualized in the 16th century? No, it wasn't conceptualized in the 16th century. It was there before 16th century. It just got an impetus in 16th century because of the advancements in navigation. Allowed colonizers to expand their territories, establish settlements and exercise political power. We are ruling it out. Sentence number 3. Sentence number 4. Technological advancement in navigation in the 16th century, factually correct in accordance with the passage, transformed colonialism, enabling Europeans to establish settlements and exert political dominance over distant regions, Americas, Australia, parts of Africa and Asia. We are ruling 2 out because they didn't displace indigenous population, and in comparison to 2, 4 is a far better option. 4 succinctly covers this paragraph. So this is a perfect summary. We will go in favor of 4. Well, so that was all I had to offer, and tomorrow again we will come up with another video on reading comprehension. Thank you so much. Thank you.